Hi, I'm Judy Mudd. Today's art tip is about surfaces for watercolor. Traditionally, we think of paper as being the surface that we use for any kind of watercolor painting, and that today that's still probably the main surface that we use. We have several choices in that. However, we do have other surfaces that are available to us now, and sometimes it's worth experimenting with them just to see if one might fit your style of painting more so than another. But as far as paper goes, we generally have cold press, sometimes called knot. It has a little bit of a texture to it, a few little bumps and valleys. But for most paintings, this is kind of the standard that we use. We also have hot pressed, which is very smooth, slippery, doesn't have any valleys or bumps to hold the paint, so the paint tends to stay on the surface. And then we have rough, which has a lot of bumps and valleys, very highly textured, and is used for things that you want some texture in them. Now, usually I choose my paper according to the subject matter that I'm getting ready to paint. I'm doing a portrait with a lot of detail, and I don't want to have bumps and valleys interfering with the minute detail that I'm going to put in, then I'll go with something like a hot press. If I have a painting that I want to have, say, a landscape, I would use something like this textured surface because it gives me the ability to dance my brush across the top of it and leave lots of sparkle and lights, say in the lake, water glistening, or in a front field of like the weeds of things growing. Then the texture might be the thing that I'm looking for. However, I would not use this for a portrait. Again, I would go back either to my hot press or I would go to the cold press, which allows you to have some detail but a little texture to it. So those are three basic things. Now these are all Arches brand paper. I tend to use Arches brand for my paintings. It just works for me. I got used to it. It has a lot of sizing to it, so the paints paint differently on it, and I really do like it. However, I do try other surfaces too, so let me show you a few of those. This is one that I don't use particularly for my paintings, but I do use it for experimentation or to test my colors. Say I'm not quite sure what colors I want to use in a painting, I'll put it on this Yupo. And the reason I like it is because then you can just take the color right off if you don't think that color works and put another color in. Now, it is a plastic type paper, very slippery. So the good thing and the bad thing is the paint tends to be lifted. If you go back in, if you're the kind of person that likes to do glazes, Yupo may not be for you, because when you go back in with another brush, then a lot of times the paint will come right up. So, but if you like to do a lot of abstracts and those kinds of paintings, then this may be absolutely the perfect painting surface for you. Now, you do have to check, if you plan to do a painting that you want to enter into a show, always check with the exhibit to see if they allow Yupo. Some of them do, some of them don't. So if you plan to put your painting in a competition or something like that, make sure they do accept Yupo. But a lot of them do, so I wouldn't hesitate to try it for that reason. This is one I did a couple years ago. I mean, it's quite old, really. And it was just an experiment to test colors. That's all I was trying to do, see what colors do I like and not like. Let me show you real quickly. This is just a clean brush. Let me pick a spot here. You can see I can get all the way back to the white of the paper. Let me wipe that off real quick and you can see it better. So as far as the paint on the surface, it does tend to sit on the surface. It is liftable. Again, that can be a plus for you or it could be a negative for you. It has nice loose qualities. You can see where I've dropped water in here and just let it kind of create its own kind of texture. And so it may be perfect for your style of painting, or it may frustrate you. It may not be what you want at all. And but a lot of professional artists use it, so I wouldn't hesitate to try it. It may work perfectly for your style of painting. Okay, another surface that we have as a choice today is aqua board. Here's what it looks like in the wrapper, and this is what the surface looks like. It is clay on the surface, a clay type surface. Has a little bit of texture. It is archivable, museum quality, and it says the amazing watercolor surface. And it is another type of surface that you can paint on and lift it back to the white of the surface again if you want to lift. So it has its pluses, and one thing you have, it's a firm surface, and so you don't have to put any kind of backing board on it or anything like that. And once it is painted, you can spray it with fixative, and then you're able to not have to use matting or glazing on your frames. You just pop it into a frame and you're done. So that's a nice plus to something like this. In that regard, it's very similar to Frederick's watercolor canvas board. If you're kind of a traditional painter and like to have the texture of canvas, then this might be the ideal surface for you. Again, it's 100% cotton. It is acid-free, and here's the back side of it. So you don't require any kind of backing board or anything like that. You can paint on it, and again, you can, when it's dry, you can fix it with fixative, spray it with fixative, pop it into a frame without any kind of matting or glazing. And here's an example back here of a portrait that I did a few years ago. And you can see it has a little bit of a softer look to it. And the nice thing about it, it does have that texture of canvas. If you want to lift back, you can, to reshape some areas in the face or whatever you're painting. And you can see the sheen on it. I have sprayed it with fixative, so it has a little bit of a sheen to it. And then again, you pop it right into a frame and you're ready to go. So it has a lot of pluses to that surface. All right, but there's a couple other surfaces. Let me get these for you. Crescent makes a watercolor board. This is their packaging. This is just a small sample pack, but Crescent, their surfaces can be hot pressed or cold pressed. The one thing that I find, what's nice about it, of course, it is on a firm surface, so you don't have to worry about backing board. It's not going to wrinkle on you, so you don't have to worry about stretching your paper. For my purpose, it doesn't quite have the sizing that I'm used to in, say, an arch paper. So I'm not quite as fond of it as, say, using paper. But fortunately, Arch has come out with a board, a watercolor board, which acts very similar to their watercolor paper. It has more sizing on it, so the paint tends to move on the paper, which is what I kind of like in painting. What's great about this one in particular is more like a hot pressed, and I can get very good detail on my portraits with it. An example of that is this painting right back here. Of this one I just finished. Let me get up close so you can see how much detail I was able to put into this painting. That's because the surface is smooth. I don't have to worry about dips and valleys that much, and it has sizing on it, so the paint does tend to let you work it for a little while. It doesn't just soak right into the paper and not move. It does allow you to blend a little bit more on the surface. And I was able to lift out like things on his coat. It was all solid dark navy, and I lifted out some of these shading areas. I was able to lift out these hairs that were lighter going across his side of his face here. So there's a lot of things that I do like about this surface. Again, it's firm. I don't have to worry about putting on a backing board to paint on it, and I won't have to worry about it getting warped or wrinkly. And I really enjoyed painting on this surface. So I plan to do quite a few more on that. But we have those types of options today. We don't have to stick with just the paper. And of course, this is a traditional watercolor painting on the cold pressed surface, so it's got its pluses. I love that arch paper, but there's other options out there. Some may suit your type of painting more than others, and I invite you to please experiment with them. You may find one like I did with this arch board that you absolutely love, and it fits your type of painting so well that you know, it takes your painting to another level, actually. So I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in one of my workshops in the future, and happy painting.